Lifelong resident and Tulalip tribal member Jerry Jones, born on August 9, 1940, was adopted by grandparents Carl and Cecilia Jones. Throughout childhood, Jerry watched, listened, and learned from teachings passed down by his family and friends. He served in the Army as an aviation mechanic, and after his military service, Jerry took a job opportunity in welding. His pride in workmanship and instinctive knack with trade skills enabled Jerry to quickly adapt to reading blueprints, shifting his career. As a boat builder, Jerry worked for Alaska Fisheries, Washington State Ferries, then became a logging mechanic for Tulalip tribes. Along the way, he was also developing his carving skills, making paddles, poles, masks, and cedar bowls, focusing his designs around Coast Salish artwork. As tribal efforts to organize the Paddle to Seattle canoe journey began in the late 1980s, Jerry's skill set was recognized when Tulalip's board of directors called on him to lead a project in carving canoes. Canoe building had become a lost art, and with the help and collaboration of many, Jerry is remembered for having not only achieved this goal, but for his leadership in teaching and sharing his knowledge and helping preserve Tulalip's history. Jerry became a role model of inspiration through his dedication to family, friends, and the tribal community. In his own words, Jerry shares stories from his life and experiences, along with what it meant to him to carry ancestral traditions forward.
My name is Jerry Jones. My Indian name is Duskius. Make a little explanation of that. It comes from my grandmother's side of my family. And this man was pre-1850. It was the only name he had. He had no last English name or anything. And was one of the people that signed the treaty, the Point Elliott Treaty in 1855 down in Mukilteo. I was given this name a few years back, and actually didn't think I deserved one yet until I had done the canoe. And I thought that it was okay for me to take one at that time. I was raised by my grandmother, grandfather, Carl and Cecilia Jones. My grandmother's father was a canoe carver and a carver of all implements, so I suppose you would say I inherited his talents, I guess, somewhat. And I know that I was carving in the year 1948. I had a little pole that my grandmother had taken and wrapped up in newspaper and put away in the pantry in the old kitchen of the old house. And so we know that I was carving at that time. It may have been a little bit earlier that I was born in 1940, so I would have been 8 years old at that time. When I was a young boy, my grandparents logged with horses. I can remember our horses being stored down by Spivada, way back in out in the woods there somewhere, but I just barely remember that. I was really, really small, and I mean, so everybody had a little part. Most of the time, my brother and I spent in summer times in berry fields with my grandmother. Seen my my granduncle brought me over to this creek right over here, and we see this is called Battle Creek. When I was about, I guess, 5 years old, 6 years old, maybe, and he had a would be like a tuna fish tin. And they had them old can openers that the tin didn't come clean off, and it was open up. And he had some string in there and it looked like resin and a nail. And he brought me in, and my cousin is dead now, but he passed away. But he brought us down there as young boys, and went and got a stick. And he carved this point of this stick out and laid this nail on there and wrapped it up. And took this can and he put it over a little teeny fire, and it was spruce pitch. And so that he took and he poured this over that string, and then he put that string over a fire, and that stuff melted and turned glass smooth, and then turned around and caught a salmon, showed us how to catch a salmon. And he just had that in his pocket, and I always remembered that, just had a pocket knife. And was telling me about never to let the sun or the light be behind me, so that because the salmon would see you. I was 5 years old when I seen it. I never forgot that that lesson. Fishing. When fishing started opening up, it would have been around 1948. I know that Lawrence Williams and Charlie Sheldon fished together beat sailing long time ago during the Second World War, before they were the only two that done that at that time. And pretty soon everyone turned to fishing then. And it just seemed like it was like overnight. I had been fishing since I was maybe 8 years old or 9 years old, and had fished. It was a way of life for us till I went in the Army, in fact. I went into welding after I got out of the service, and become a boat builder. And happened to be, well, I was a good welder, but I happened to be a better layout person. In other words, the one that did cutting and the forming of all of these boats and stuff. And I still continued to carve. And so after I got out of boat building, which ran for about 28 years, I came back and went to work for the tribe. And I was working as a welder and mechanic for about 12 years. And I was asked by them if I would take a project of carving a seagoing family canoe for our tribe. And I agreed to do that. I've always wanted to carve a canoe, and never had the log. And most did not have the knowledge of how to do it. And so I told them that I would do that. I said, but it would be nice if I could get a consultant like Bill Holmes, and his name came up because I watched him on Channel 9 carve a canoe. And I knew that, and he was the curator at the Burke Museum down at the University of Washington. And I knew that he'd done that, and so it just happened that one of our board of directors had attended the University of Washington and took his carving class. And so he says, I know Bill Holmes, and he says, I'll talk to him then. And so the next meeting he came back, and he says, you know, Bill said he'd be glad to help you. And the reason that I had mentioned these words is because there were no carvers of canoes around anymore. There had not been one produced in about 70 years on our reservation. I picked out the tree in February of 1988, and we cut it down in April of 1988, and we brought it down to the site in Marysville in June of 1988, and proceeded to carve it. I had an assistant that worked part-time with me, Joe Gobin, and we started on it, and I finished it up in 1 year. And it should take shorter than that, but I didn't know how to do it, and so I had a teacher coming in, and who was Bill Holmes, who was just retired as a curator at the Burke Museum, and had gone out himself and learned from the last of the masters up in Canada and Washington of how to carve canoes. There were no teachers around. And so we finished this up, and I take it as a birth of our culture coming back. In July of 1989, our canoe left our docks over here and paddled on what was the beginning of our tribal journeys in our paddle to Seattle. And from that day on, our tribe has been involved, and it was kind of like the beginning of our culture coming back to our tribe. We hadn't lost it, but had been kind of suppressed, and it was kind of like the birth of it coming back. And I now work for the Culture Resources Department, which makes canoes, all implements of the stuff that our people used a long time ago, including language. It's a great honor to have been chosen to do this thing. I just feel like I must have been sent here to do this. Of all the things that I've done in my life, to me, bringing this canoe back to the Tulalip tribes is somewhat one of the most important thing I've done in my life.
I wanted to introduce one of the carvers on the first canoe. It was Jerry Jones and Joe Gobin on the first canoe, and it's 30 foot long, Jerry?
38.
Okay, it gained a little. It's 38 foot long. My mistake.
It's growing.
It's growing. Okay, and then Jerry, you carved this brand new one now. It's Little Sister, and that's the one that's going to be going to Canada.
It's Teet Sukwa, would be a little sister. She was talking to me, And people that are non-believers would say, well, what are you talking about, you know? And she was telling me, why are you sitting here? And my little sister's over there, you could be working. It was still daylight is what she was trying to say to me, I think. And so I went home and I called my brother up and I told him, I said, I know the name of the new canoe now. And so that, I told him that her name is Little Sister. This canoe will be presented by the girls. We're going to put a whole girl crew on here. And, well, it's Little Sister, so that we have some of the girls that have paddled for 5 years now, and that they're up to being skippers now, and being up in the most important person is the skipper, but the second most is the one that sits in this one here that steers the canoe as it's going. They set the pace and stuff like that. They call them the stroke people. And I just thought it would be fitting that the girls bring that in. As you can see here, I'm doing 2 canoes this year. Last year in our journey out at Tulalip, we had at one time 125 members of the canoe family at one time in Queets, in fact, and it was a funny thing. We pulled into a reservation called the Whole River Reservation, and their whole tribe consisted of 80 people, and our canoe family was 125 strong. So it was kind of funny to have more people than their whole reservation did. But we got back and had some meetings, and when you have 125 people in the family and only 20 seats available for paddling, some people didn't get to paddle. And so when we came back, I had been a boat builder all of my life before I became a member of the Tribal Culture Resources Department. And I had seen a new technique. To us, it's not a new technique in building boats, but this is called a strip canoe. And as I seen this being done, I told my brother that I could do that. I'm kind of being a boat builder and doing that for 28 years in my life. And so we had some meetings, and my brother was saying, we need some new canoes. And so I told him, if you can get me a budget, I can build these canoes for us. And so they came up in a couple of meetings later and said, well, we have the budget. And so this is the end result of that thing. And by next week, we'll have it glassed. And it's made out of strips that we no longer can get old growth cedar trees out of the forest. You know, you can't take them down according to the spotted owl. And so that in the future, this will be the way that people that have no access to old growth trees will still be able to get a canoe in the shape and of the same materials as our ancestors had. And so I'm thinking, you know, 100 years from now, that this will be the way that they do it also. There just will not be any old growth cedar around anymore. And it's kind of nice to be one of the few people that have done this so far. And so it reminds me of all of the training I've done in them 28 years. It really comes out to the very most important thing that I've done in that stuff is this here, I think. And it's so nice to be able to, you know, to produce it for our tribe. I just feel so fortunate that it just seemed like no matter where I worked, I could never wait to get to work, to my job. I enjoy working, be it here or be it when I was mechanicing. I was an aircraft mechanic and in the service for 7 years, and I enjoyed that. But I enjoyed everything though, so I guess I enjoy working. I'm thankful that I have this now, you know, and I'm thankful, truly thankful that I was able to bring these gifts, I call them gifts, to our tribe and our people. I want no accolades. I try to be a humble person and not take advantage of the gifts that I've been given. You'll hear people talk about the old Snohomish people. Although they were a very proud person, they were humble people. And I'll mention to you that I have almost no material things. In the old Indian way, the more you give, the richer you are. And so that I have none of my carvings or anything. I've given them all away, virtually everything that I have. And I enjoy that, you know, and I like to sit back and see the joy it gives to people, that I somewhat reward some of the young people that paddle and things by giving them paddles and stuff. To know who you are, you need to know where you're from. And I've been lucky in doing my canoe carving and stuff. I've met a lot of young people, and I often talk to them about their culture and their heritage. And it doesn't have to be Native American, doesn't have to be Northwest Native American. It can be European, it can, and so when I had these people up here, I told all of them, the Indians and the Europeans together, go home and ask your mother about your grandmother and your grandfather and your great-grandmother and grandfather, for each of you have a culture and a heritage. When I was a young person, my grandfather told me, you don't need to know this stuff because you're going to have to work in the white man's world. This stuff's going to be all gone now. And so he meant well. And he's trying to tell me that you need to learn this other way, and this really has no need anymore. And so that when you become an adult and they're gone, you look back and you say, I do need it. I can have it both ways. I can have both lives. And so what we're trying to do as a people, and what the tribe is trying to do, is to preserve some of our culture and heritage. And so I'm so thankful for our tribe for putting up all of these things that we do to return what's left of our culture and bringing back our history and our heritage. And the portion that I do in the canoe part of this is just very exciting to me to be able to return this to our tribe. These projects of mine, you're supposed to finish them and then let them go on. Usually a master carver who would carve canoes would carve one and it would go to another reservation or another tribe or something like that. These stay here, and what they do is they become my children. And I'm kind of being involved with the canoe family. I'm always around them. I was appointed by the board of directors back in 1989 as a caretaker of the canoes. And so that I get to be with them, I get to transport them and make sure they're taken care of, and I get to repair them when they need repairs. But also in the same token, they kind of like become my children. And I often speak sternly when I see them treating them roughly. We hope that these canoes will last 200 years, maybe 225. And so that 2 centuries from now, what a Tulalip will be, I don't know what they look like. They'll still be Tulalips, but they'll be able to put these canoes in the waters and travel exactly like them old Indians did way back in 2003, which they'll be talking about before it was just 1 century ago. The canoes that I copied, we didn't know who made it. We don't know who carved it. We don't know exactly what tribe it was from. But these canoes are documented, and so that two centuries from now, they'll be able to look at these canoes and say, not so much that I carved them, but so much that the Tulalip tribes took time to preserve this way of life for the future generations of our tribe.
Through a humble leadership style, Jerry showed an unwavering commitment to his people. He demonstrated the importance of being both student and teacher throughout his life, acknowledging how to move forward with the evolution of time and methods while not losing sight of tribal heritage and cultural values. Though Jerry's life was tragically cut short by a car accident in 2003, the legacy of his contributions in helping preserve Tulalip's cultural identity will long be appreciated. The Tulalip History Project proudly remembers Jerry Jones.